A semiconductor shortage takes a toll on businesses and jobs and brings a call to make more chips in the USA.
Let's bring the manufacturing jobs back to the United States to make this highly important national security piece, the chip, here.
How lawmakers in Washington are working to change the equation and why some see it as a matter of national security. Our investigation found hundreds of reports filed incomplete or late after people died in police custody. What lawmakers did and did not do for families looking for answers. A deadly hot air balloon crash in Texas brought promises to improve safety measures. Our investigation looks into why years later, regulators still have not implemented new rules.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Hinkle. A shortage of semiconductors has slowed production of things ranging from cell phones to cars, even military fighter planes. Now it's sparking an international race to beef up manufacturing. Texas Senator John Cornyn is spearheading an effort to increase chip production in the USA. As Wes Rappaport shows us, the senator says we're in a competition with China.
What China is doing is they want to become the dominant economy and the dominant superpower in the world. And that's a vulnerability for the United States.
In talking with tech companies growing their Texas footprints, Senator John Cornyn explored how the semiconductor manufacturing industry can think differently.
There's been a significant gap between the strong demand and the supply in the overall industry for automotive semiconductors.
Pretty busy.
Yes, sir. At Samsung's Austin facility, the conversation focused in on how the semiconductor shortage dominoes into larger problems.
Employees at car manufacturing facilities are being laid off because there is not a reliable supply of semiconductors needed to build those cars.
Wafers like these are cut down for use in cars, but while the auto industry gets most of the attention on this issue, semiconductor chips are also found in places like your smartphone. Legislation passed last year to incentivize American companies to produce semiconductors, but Congress didn't pay for it. Cornyn is now pushing for Congress to approve his plan for a funding mechanism.
We've optimized our current capacity, and the only way for us to meet the demand going forward is through expansion.
The price tag on Cornyn's legislation is around $52 billion. Cornyn says it will pay off in the long run.
We're working hand in glove with the administration and the Secretary of Commerce. So this is not a partisan issue. This is just something we need to get done and maintain our vigilance so that it does get done before we fall prey to this vulnerability.
I'm Wes Rappaport for State of Texas.
Senator Cornyn praised Texas Congressman McCaul for his work on the Chips for America Act in the House. Earlier this month, I spoke with Congressman McCaul about how the work in Washington could help meet the need for chips made in the USA. I know you led the way in the House on the Chips for America Act. What does the act do, and exactly what else needs to be done?
Well, I think in the wake of COVID, we realized we were just way too dependent on China for various things like medical supply, like rare earth minerals, and then finally advanced semiconductor chips. Anything that's in the national security realm, we need to break our supply chain out of the region and bring it either into the United States or with allied nations where we can better protect it. Now, these semiconductor chips are in everything from your iPhone to the F-35. They're in our most advanced weapon systems at the Pentagon, of high value and importance from a national security standpoint. Our Senator Cornyn and I have worked in a bipartisan manner, a rare event these days to actually have members on both sides coming together for something that makes sense. And that is, let's bring the manufacturing jobs back to the United States to make this highly important national security piece, the chip, here. And we do that through both tax incentives and a grant program with the Department of Commerce. This has gotten broad bipartisan bicameral support. I was in the White House with President Biden, 8 of us in the Oval Office. He said he was very supportive, as well as with Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor in the Situation Room in the White House. This is of high importance both to Congress and the administration, which gives me great hope that we're going to get this done. I think the impact, Josh, right here in Austin is going to be profound. I mean, we're already seeing companies like Samsung in my district expanding their manufacturing of these chips. Intel and IBM are looking at a joint venture that could be possibly here in Austin. IBM's largest facility is right here in Austin. And I think you'll see more and more of these fabrication plants popping up in this area which will create high-paying jobs. And for each job it does create, it creates 5 more jobs in our Austin economy. It could be a really big boom for our economy here, but also to protect our national security.
Yeah, if you're a business, it would seem to be in your interest to buy chips from the supplier that charges less. Right now, those suppliers are largely in China. What do you think needs to happen to make businesses, car makers, for instance, buy American when it comes to semiconductors?
Well, we do think incentivizing this investment refundable tax credit would pay for about 40% of their upfront cost. It's very expensive to build a fabrication plant, and it would cover up to 40% of that cost. That will incentivize them. They want to do this in America. We just need to incentivize them to do so. It's not in our interest to have a compromised chip coming out of the region, say out of, where China has an influence, that may be compromised and going into our national security apparatus and into our national weapon systems. TSMC is a good example. In Taiwan, we found out the PRC was taking these chips to build their hypersonic missiles, which is why we pulled them out of Taiwan, working with Taiwan, and put it into Arizona. That was kind of the pilot program for the Chips for America Act. And we think if we continue to do this, we're going to bring a lot more of this manufacturing right here in the United States, and most of it right here in Austin.
What's standing in the way of those incentives?
Congress. I've gotten better at passing legislation, but you really have to work across the aisle, which we've done effectively, to make sure you get it done. It was authorized in the National Defense Authorization Bill. The Senate has passed it, the funding piece, and now it's in the House right now, where I will be sort of leading the effort to get it done in the House. We'll probably have a conference committee, House and Senate, and then hopefully get this done by the end of the year.
All right, Congressman McCaul, thank you very much.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Health insurance companies questioning what your doctor recommends and threatening not to pay.
You can imagine that patient's tremendous anxiety with their new cancer diagnosis if they have to wait a week or two to get information that they can get appropriate scans.
How a new Texas law could reduce prior authorization waits for patients. It's been years since a deadly hot air balloon crash, but the search for safety solutions is not complete.
The FAA has refused to act on recommendations of the National Transportation Safety Board. They have done it repeatedly.
Coming up, our investigation follows up on why promised safety plans are slow to take effect.